Hiya, it's Yogi Paulo here. I'd like today to talk a little bit about my own journey spiritually. It started probably when I was a child. I always had a need to know what life was about, basically. It seemed like enigmatic, the fact that I existed, and I can only talk from my point of view, from the point of trying to understand life, not from the fact that there's lots of other people on this planet who I share it with, etc. But for me it was just a kind of a riddle. Basically, what was I doing here? What was the purpose and point of my existence, if there was one? So it started when I was quite young, probably, I don't know, maybe when I was about 9 or something. And I was involved in traditional religious sort of belief systems, and then when I was about 16, I remember very specifically going into what I call altered states of consciousness, and these were like I would feel completely fantastic, absolutely really good. I'd feel very energized and very awake and very aware, and I wouldn't know what triggered them off. I wouldn't know what the cause of them was and why I experienced them, but they used to come and then they'd go away. But what I liked about them was the fact that I could feel so exhilarated and uplifted, which was, different to the normal condition. And then when I was 17, I remember going under hypnosis, and that was quite I remember it still to this day. It was quite profound. Being taken to quite a deep level. It was with an audio tape, and I remember my friend who brought the tape, he then said, "Come on, get up now." I was in a very deep, relaxed state, and it was quite a shock to be sort of brought out of it. Anyway, we move on then to when I was 19 in 1969, and I met my first spiritual mentor, and he came to where I worked, got a job there. He was a TV engineer, and I worked as an apprentice. And he started to talk about different states of consciousness, about being more aware and more awake, and the fact that a lot of people are motivated and driven only by their egos, and basically that was about it. And he said there's a lot more to us than what we've been told, what we believe by our cultural, traditional, belief systems. And then a couple of years later, I started my first meditation properly, being taught by a properly trained meditation teacher, and it was mantra meditation. That was in 1971, and I thought, wow, this is good. I mean, prior to that, the only knowledge I'd had of meditation was the Beatles, and cousin Ringo, learning, which intrigued me at the time. but I didn't know where to go or anything, and the Beatles were, they'd learnt in England and then they went to India, so, I didn't know any more about it than that. Anyway, then I started meditating regularly and started to experience first regular, higher state of consciousness. And meditate and always, feel really chilled out and peaceful, and it enhanced my life tremendously. And the goal there was a state called cosmic consciousness, and in that state the idea is that you feel a sense of presence all the time. There's a sense of being present, aware and awake, 24 hours a day. You're just always here. And so I work towards that. And I found at some point that I wasn't making the progress that I wanted, although my life had changed quite considerably in the direction I wished it to go. And then I took up a new meditation practice and had quite a developed teacher, and under his tutelage I had quite a powerful experience of being awake. And after that I felt different, but not that different, but I did feel different. It stayed with me, but it wasn't a major sort of like shift, although it was quite different than what I'd normally felt prior to that. Anyway, time went on, I'd been meditating and studying. I left that teacher and then had another teacher, and this teacher helped me to kind of awaken properly. This happened in December 2005, and I remember it very clearly that there was a great sense of well-being, and it stayed with me. I do feel very present, and there's a great sense of freedom came with that realization. I must add that it's not an experience. In other words, not something that comes and goes. It's something that's present there all the time. To talk a little bit about what it's actually like, I'd just say that you're present. I'm present. I feel it all the time. I never lose the sense of being here, no matter what goes on. In terms of my mind is it's probably as crazy as ever was. It can be thought-filled, and other times it can be very, very silent. I feel very, very calm. So, that fluctuates. Behind that, there is a constant sense of presence, a constant feeling, if you will, of something free, limitless, without a beginning or an end. And wherever I go, it's with me. So one of the things that I treasured when I was young, at least the idea of it, was the desire to be free. And this, I'd say, definitely is the feeling of being free. And that's been put to many tests over the years since I got awakened. And it's constant. It doesn't matter wherever I am or whatever I'm doing, that presence is there. And so it's wonderful to have this realization. It's worth any amount of money. If somebody was to offer you money, it wouldn't touch it, to be honest. And the good news I'd say is that this is available to everybody. I'm nobody special. I have nothing special about me. This is something, I wasn't born with any gifts. This is something that we all have within us. And what we need is just a real determination, and we need this, for want of a better word, technology. To me, it's a scientific process. And my awakening came by repeated exposure to higher energy, which was directed towards me. And that's the kind of work I do with other people now. Every week, I direct energy towards them. And over a period of time, what happens eventually, through doing that and communicating with them as well, is they give birth, so to speak, to this transcendent, pure conscious level within themselves. And it's that simple. This is not something you can do. It's something you accept. And given the right input, is brought out of you. It comes alive, comes awake. Higher states of consciousness are not something that you attain to a higher place that you go. It's actually dropping in to something that's already present within us all. And so that's really how I see things. And from this point on, now I meditate and I do Qigong and study still and work with people and look forward to meeting up with people who are connected and interested in spirituality. And everybody has their own take on it. And you know, the process I've been involved in, and still am, doesn't have any. It's not about philosophy. It's not about lifestyle. It's not about being a vegetarian. It's not about looking spiritual. It's about being connected and being authentic. And in doing that, the process is a kind of organic one, which you allow things to awaken within you very naturally, rather than trying to be so directive about it and trying to fit yourself into a little box, which is often the case. The sort of stuff I've come across over the years. People very disciplined, following Eastern practices, particularly monastic exercises and techniques and lifestyle, and you know, quite honestly, it doesn't fit in to a modern world. I mean, and it doesn't need to. You can awaken, go into work every day, be married with a family, have a good job. You don't have to give things up for it to take place. And this kind of spirituality, if we want to call it that, is for everybody. And it's for us now to recognize and realize that in essence we are all divine beings. And then the greatest respect for our incarnated selves, our human side, our personalities, our minds, it's the whole lot, our feelings as individuals, and you know, it's all of this totality that makes us true spiritual beings. It's not just one or the other, but it's a totality, an integrated self, quite holistic, and it's not just one side or the other, but the whole thing. It's beyond psychology, and yet it involves your personal side, your physicality, and the environment, the world that we live in. So it's also very relational. It's to do with the world around you and connectivity to that world. So that for me, also, I love being creative and doing things and interacting with the world around me, and that for me is very much a part of my spiritual journey. It's not to remove myself, but in fact quite the opposite, to actually engage more with it in the way that I can nowadays, based upon my understanding